I've been blocked by over 5,000 people on Twitter. Now, this doesn't totally surprise me because if I had to see me every day and not be me, I would probably block me too. But I do have to say, I'm kind of shocked, kind of proud that one of those 5,000 people happens to be none other than Jeffree Star.
Jeffree Star. Where do we begin with this guy, man?
We have a lot of emotional tea to dive into.
That my fans are totally hating on someone like Jeffree Star.
Jeffree Star autobiography, it needs to come soon.
Oh, and if my body's found dead in a ditch somewhere, it's Jeffree Star.
Hi and welcome back to me talking about whatever I want. Today I want to talk about Jeffree Star. If you've been on Twitter, YouTube, or the mainstream media, you may have noticed that there's kind of a lot going on with the three least necessary YouTubers of all time: Shane Dawson, Tati Westbrook, and Jeffree Star. Three people I never want to hear about ever again. So I have decided to make one video about each one of them, and this video is about Jeffree Star. Now, a lot of Jeffree Star supporters get angry when you bring up his dark past full of racism, bad wigs, and literal clown makeup. They claim that he's changed and he's grown as a person, but I mean, his makeup still looks like a Snapchat filter in bad lighting, and you can literally see the tracks in his wig, so what exactly changed? The racism? Not likely. But I actually think his stands are onto something. We get so distracted by Jeffree Star's past that we fail to look at the absolute buffoonery that he's pulling in the present. So in this video, we're going to do exactly that. After a lot of research, a ton of editing, and one too many Jeffree Star videos — that's a joke, even one is too many — allow me to present not an exploration of Jeffree Star's past actions, but a comprehensive timeline of Jeffree Star in the present, in which we're going to see that this man managed to fake everything about basically everything. But first, let's talk about me. I'm proud to announce that my 2-month break is over. I mentioned this in my last video, which was about Lana Del Rey. I'm actually not back. I'm, after this video, probably going to take another 1-month break. And now I am back, and not just with a pretty smile. I have content. I started a new weekly podcast called the Office Husband Podcast, and the first episode is already up. There's no new episode this week because it's the 4th of July, but go watch that if you want. That's linked down in the description. I also have an entire video planned for my bonus channel. That's going to be the one about Shane Dawson, so I'll also link that in the description. That's coming soon, so look out for that. And lastly, I'd like to announce my upload schedule for my YouTube videos here on my main channel. Yes, I'm admitting that this is the main channel now. I will be uploading new YouTube videos whenever I finish them. That's what I realized on my break. That was my grand epiphany. I don't have to upload YouTube videos at a specific time. I just have to upload good YouTube videos every time. So I promise I'll do my best to pull that off, as long as you promise to keep watching them. And I really appreciate everyone's support, just almost as much as I appreciate today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. With a VPN like ExpressVPN, you'll never have to worry about getting your data stolen through public Wi-Fi networks ever again. Then again, literally nobody has to worry about that right now. We're all trapped inside our homes right now, and I haven't connected to anyone else's Wi-Fi in what feels like 5 years. But even with no public networks to worry about, I still get plenty of usage from ExpressVPN's other features, like changing your location with one click. With all this extra free time I had, I clearly wasn't making YouTube videos, so I have been watching a ton of stuff on Netflix. Canadian Netflix. These people have the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy and Naruto Shippuden. Clearly the superior Netflix. ExpressVPN isn't just good for finding new content, it also helps you unblock content. This video is not available in your country. Try again. I'm Canadian now. Of course, the best part of all this is that you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by going to the link down in the description. It's expressvpn.com/D'Angelo. So go download TechRadar, CNET's, The Verge's top-rated VPN from the link down below. expressvpn.com/D'Angelo, and thank you ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Now let me tell you the story of Jeffree Star. Basically, he used to be popular on MySpace about 10 years ago for being a legitimately awful person. I'm not even exaggerating, by the way. His entire persona was that he was not good.
You look like you have autism!
He was only popular because he was stereotyping himself in the most demeaning way possible. If there's one thing bigots love more than degrading you, it's when you degrade yourself for their amusement. So he turned that fame into a brief music career, but I'm gonna be honest here. I feel like me even acknowledging that Jeffree Star songs exist is disrespectful to actual musicians. Yeah. No. So anyway, once his music career inevitably died, he launched a makeup company called Jeffree Star Cosmetics. And once MySpace died, he joined the perfect place for anybody with little to no talent and even fewer people skills: YouTube.com. my home sweet home. And so that past history that I just gave a brief synopsis of is what brings us to the beginning of our timeline that we're going to go through in this video. 2017. It's now 2017 and Jeffree Star Cosmetics is worth millions of dollars. He has millions of subscribers and he decided to start his redemption arc to become a less awful person in the future by apologizing for how he was in the past. Except he didn't. He literally didn't apologize for being racist. See, these are just a few of the clips that people wanted an answer for.
I win by having diamond rims and you win by being more Mexican.
Shut up, you fucking nigga, bitch. You stupid ape, I'm gonna spray you. You beat that nigga. He's a fucking nigga. You're a nigga, you ugly ass bitch.
Trust me when I say, as bad as those are, there are far worse ones, and plenty of them. So Jeffree uploaded this video on June 20th, 2017, titled simply Racism. It's 15 minutes long, it has no ads and no comments. I'm just gonna be honest, disabling comments on an apology video is weak. The fact that someone is unwilling to hear any input on their apology, even from the people that they're supposedly apologizing to, sounds hella remorseful to me. But I will say, he does say the words, "I'm sorry." It's just, he doesn't say, "I'm sorry for being racist." He says, "I'm sorry for the words I said." Now, in most cases, I would just chalk that up to bad wording. See, listen.
So I want to let you guys know that I am so sorry for ever saying those things. That does not represent anything how I feel. That is not who I am. And I apologize deep down to the core of my being. I'm so sorry for my words. I am so sorry for everything that I've said in my past. I can never turn back time and take those moments away.
But the issue is, it's not bad wording. Jeffree Star just literally isn't even admitting to being racist. His own apology titled Racism.
I think that racism is a very serious subject, especially in today's world. I'm embarrassed as a person because that is not what I've ever stood for. The intent behind my words back then, it was not about race. Racism does not live inside of me. I don't even know what the fuck. Like, I don't know how that exists into people.
Talking about dropping the hard R and claiming that it's not about race, I have to give him points for originality. Jeffree Star was really setting the blueprint for this kind of thing in 2017, and seeing as this is his only available apology, I for one am kind of tired of his stance saying he apologized when A, he clearly didn't, you can watch the entire video for yourself, and B, all he really did was contribute to the normalization of racial slurs by claiming that they're not, in fact, related to race. And now that's what all his followers will tell you when you call them out. So imagine how tired we are of it. I don't know who needs to hear this, but being in a dark place and then lashing out from that dark place by being racist means that you're racist. When I'm in a dark place, I just watch Netflix, listen to sad music, go to sleep, do all three at the same time. And this is not just me. Somehow I feel like most people manage to avoid recording themselves shouting racial epithets at people and then uploading that to the internet. And the fact that we let people like Jeffree Star normalize that behavior by behavior like this in his 2017 video, tragic. But there is one thing that Jeffree's sorry to see. He actually spends more time in his apology video addressing how unhappy it makes him that people bring up his past at all than he does addressing actual racism.
A lot of stuff from my past constantly gets dragged up. It's been happening for years. My past has been recorded, it's been videoed, it has been exploited all over the internet. I see them resurface and it just makes me sick to my stomach. It really makes me sick to my stomach to watch those old videos. And every time that they get re-dragged up, it just makes me just sad because I don't know who that person was. I am so sorry that any of you ever had to see me like that. It makes me want to just, I don't know, it makes me want to erase myself sometimes. I don't want you to see an old video of me and be like, wow, Jeffree says this, but he's really about this.
That's why his stands get so defensive when you mention his past, because Jeffree makes it seem like he's the one most affected by it. You know, not the people who have had to go their entire life having this kind of stuff spewed at them. Victimizing yourself in your apology video. A YouTube classic. I'm serious, Jeffree Star was a professional. He also mentions repeatedly that these clips are from 12 years ago. He would really like you to know that these clips are from 12 years ago.
It concerns old videos that were filmed of me 12 years ago. And those videos were 12 years ago. Let's go back to 12 years ago.
And you know what? A lot of these clips are actually from 12 years ago. But the issue with that is, it's 2020. They're from 12 years ago. Today. He made this apology video in 2017. So normally I wouldn't come after someone for not remembering a date because I'm gonna be fully honest, I barely remember my own birthday most of the time. But you can literally see that the most popular clips he was referring to have a 2008 copyright date on them, meaning they were less than a decade old when he was apologizing for them. He can't admit that the problem took place. He can't admit when the problem took place. The only thing that Jeffree Star promises to change in his I Changed video is to stop clapping back at people online.
I don't want to deal with anger and rage and drama anymore. I just feel like it's just so unhealthy and it eats away at you. It's just wrong. And I don't want to continue that behavior. I should be setting an example. Fighting with people online and all this bullshit is so unhealthy, and it's something that I'm going to completely stop. I'm not going to feed into it anymore. I am not going to feed the fire of hate with hate. I just think it has to stop.
Let's see how well that worked out for him. Anyway, that was 2017. It was the beginning of a beautiful change for Jeffree Star, in which he changed absolutely nothing about himself, but nobody could point it out because the comments were disabled.
I think that 2018 was one of the most insane years of the beauty community. I think we learned a big lesson last year. Don't come for Jeffree Star, because you'll end your career.
So, 2018 was the year that Jeffree Star stepped into the larger public consciousness as a new and improved Jeff. Gone were the days of, nothing really. Again, like I said, he didn't change, he just told us all that he changed. In retrospect, he didn't change for the better, he claimed to be better and everyone believed him for some reason, and that reason was named Shane Dawson.
I think one of the most life-changing things that happened to me this year was my series with Shane Dawson.
This of course was the beginning of the worst timeline. The worst man on YouTube decides to start a collaboration documentary series with the other worst man on YouTube. All you need to know for context is that I have mixed feelings about Shane Dawson for a number of reasons, none of which we will be discussing in this video. So Shane Dawson made a 5-part documentary series called The Secret World of Jeffree Star. But the issue with this Shane Dawson series is the same issue with everything involving Shane Dawson, and that issue is Shane Dawson. The man is simply not good at making docuseries. His documentaries document nothing. They're just extended vlogs with an indie film soundtrack and an unholy runtime, and they're designed to make the subject look as good as humanly possible. No objectivity, no educational value, no tripod. These just aren't documentaries. They're really, really long PR videos. See, the 2018 Jeffree Star series wasn't just for fun. It was a calculated move to shift Jeffree Star into that same wholesome, positive space that Shane Dawson had scammed his way into years earlier. See, before this series, Jeffree was a PR nightmare. His terrible history with literally everything wasn't very good for other people's brands. And when celebrities decided to take a risk and work with him anyway, this is what happened to them, even the biggest ones.
Guys, like, and I see you being so petty, bringing up things in his past where he, was, negative, but he's also apologized for those things. And I get it's a serious deal if you say like racial things, but I do believe in people changing, and people that apologize, I will give them the benefit of the doubt.
2 hours later.
Hey guys, so I really wanted to apologize to you guys and my fans for defending a situation yesterday that I really didn't know enough about.
So Shane and Jeffree's genius idea was to give Jeffree a platform to present his racism in the most sympathetic way possible, in the best possible light. Again, notice how he still doesn't admit to being racist, even at that time, but instead he just hyper focuses on one clip and gives context for that one.
And this is from 13 now. This is 13 years ago, I think. I was 19, and we are on the streets of Miami on the boardwalk. And there is a bunch of chicks screaming, "You fucking fag freak," at me. So I turn around and I say some really vicious stuff back. If you go and find the footage, the people I'm screaming at are Caucasian. Yeah, what I said was racist, but I wasn't saying it to a person of color. I was saying a horrible, offensive word to cut back at someone calling me something awful. So it's not about race, it's not about any of that. It was just about being an offensive, attention-seeking, angry person.
Maybe if we zoom into his face close enough and make people feel sorry for him, then people will almost forget it's racism. Of course, this sob story did succeed in changing the tide of public opinion in Jeffree's favor anyway, because people would rather believe that someone is just misunderstood than that someone's bigoted. So yeah, Shane Dawson's PR stunt worked. Millions of people saw the new brand safe Jeffree, the new Jeffree that Jeffree invented and is cosplaying as, while still being the old Jeffree. And as we're going to see later into this video, the old Jeffree is a compulsive liar.
I've been lying to all of you, and the woman that I have been posting for the last 5 years is not my mother.
Now, I want to make something very clear. As you can tell, I have plenty of criticism for Jeffree Star, but when it comes to decisions that people make about their family, I'm never gonna judge. You honestly never know what somebody's life is like outside of the small window that they tell you about on YouTube. And even though Jeffree's window is kind of stained, his family stuff that he doesn't choose to put forward publicly on the internet is all up to him. So when I learned that he hadn't spoken to his mother in years and years, honestly, I felt bad for him and I respected his decision. But then when I learned that he had a different family member playing his mom the entire time and he was pretending that that was his birth mother, it all started to feel a bit weird. Now, I'm not really exposing or sharing new stuff with this point. I'm just including it to prove a point. See, in 2018, Jeffree actually came forward with this information himself, right after the Shane series.
The imagery that pops up when you Google my mother is a lie. The name that pops up when you Google my mom and pictures of us, all of it is a lie. It's been a lie this whole time, and it started out as like a cute white lie. And I'm sure all of you are wondering, who is this woman? Her name is Lori, and she is my actual aunt.
Now, again, being closer to your aunt than your mom is a family thing. Everyone's family is different. Ultimately, I'm just glad he had someone there for him. But parading your aunt around on social media as your mom, that's some next level stuff. The reason I'm including this point is not to say, you know, he shouldn't have done this or he's a bad person for how he dealt with his mother. It's just more so like, you can't really trust anything about this person. He may have his reasons sometimes, he may not have any valid reasons at all most of the time, but Jeffree Star just kind of lies all of the time.
Now we are one of the top 10 brands in America. Like, what the f? 2019 has been a blessing.
So 2019 was shaping up to be a great year for Jeffree Star. For better or for worse, he managed to outrun his reputation. Thanks to Shane and his new direction, he now had an even more massive audience than before, and all of these new people were just as emotionally invested, and they had their wallets ready. It seemed like 2019 was going to be a great year, but like all record highs, it was followed by a new low.
Jeffree got in contact with the
Star
FBI, watching for any trace of the stolen
$2.5 million worth of his cosmetics, $2.5 million in cosmetics stolen from Jeffree Star.
Now, I would like to include a preface for this part. Unlike the other points in this timeline, this whole robbery section is actually just me speculating. Behold, Jeffree Star Cosmetics' alleged $2.5 million robbery that made national news last year. Now, this isn't me saying that it didn't happen, but it's just me sharing my opinion, which is that it didn't happen. Here's why I believe that it's completely possible that Jeffree Star faked this entire $2.5 million robbery for promo for his new line of concealer products. So, the first source that Jeffree Star was robbed was Jeffree Star himself. They came in through the roof, and he claims that there's footage, but then he doesn't show any footage. Now, again, this could very easily just be because there's an ongoing investigation. Or it could just be because this is literally an advertisement for his concealers.
They hit us really hard. They came in through the roof. It was a very professional job. It was a team of people. And when you watch footage of this stuff, it is so gut-wrenching. They took thousands of Northern Lights. They took thousands of lip liners. And they took an entire shade of concealer. Like, I have 30 plus shades in this amazing line. I am so proud of it. The formula is unreal, and I am so excited for you guys to experience it later this month. I didn't plan on talking about it or showing things off today, but hi, things happen.
So according to Jeff, the FBI got involved, tracked down an unnamed individual who was selling that makeup, and then jailed that individual. You following? So this unnamed individual sold this makeup to a random lady who then tried to sell it on Facebook. Now, that Facebook listing is real. That's confirmed. And that random lady was named Tessa Rollison.
I have hired a whole entire
investigative team to help me with law enforcement. We are in contact with FBI. The picture that a lot of you saw online was from a girl that stole the original picture. So this person is in jail. The girl that leaked the photo, she is part of the problem.
So basically, a team of highly trained and professional thieves broke into a warehouse through the ceiling, stole millions of dollars worth of makeup, and then sold some to some random girl on Facebook who immediately got them caught. Right off the bat, that story is nonsensical and way too conveniently lined up with the launch of Jeffree's new concealer. 30 shades, you guys, 30 shades. It's just so convenient that they managed to steal an entire shade of his new concealer that he hadn't even launched yet, therefore making his robbery announcement double as the concealer announcement. And then the FBI got involved. Except, guess what the FBI and local law enforcement had to say about it? Nothing. There are no statements or confirmation about this outlandish tale other than Jeffree Star himself. Now, again, my initial thought was maybe, you know, the police department just doesn't comment on things like this. But then I looked into it, and the reason so many people believe that Jeffree Star was telling the truth without being shown any evidence or confirmation from other sources was because there actually had been a string of makeup-related heists that occurred before Jeffree Star announced this. One of the most notable ones was an ABH makeup warehouse getting robbed. But when you look at how they got robbed, magically, it's the exact same as Jeffree Star's story, but the article says the LAPD said that subjects sawed through the roof. So despite this being the same story by presumably the same people, notice how law enforcement actually made a statement in ABH's case where it was confirmed, but magically didn't answer reporters when asked for a statement about Jeffree. For ABH, an LAPD spokesperson shared more information, and in Jeffree's case, there was no spokesperson, no police records, no evidence of any kind, just the pictures of empty boxes that Jeffree Star released and a few Facebook listings. The issue with that is anybody can make a Facebook listing if you have a picture of the product, and Jeffree Star himself admitted that people were using pictures of the product that they didn't even own. This means these listings don't even confirm that people actually had the makeup. Here's a statement from that Tessa Rollison lady explaining that she didn't in fact have the makeup, but moreover, that the FBI didn't actually contact her.
In the moment, it was like, wow, I can just get these concealers. I have access to them. Like, this would be great.
Rollison says she never had possession of any of the stolen makeup, but she did break her own rule when she did not get receipts or other proof that the goods were legit. Rollison says the FBI has not contacted her.
So the FBI is on the case, but they don't even bother to contact the lady who's confirmed to have purchased this makeup from the person that they arrested. It was at this point that I realized there's just no evidence for this robbery at all. Like, none that I was personally able to say. Now, again, I will just end this one by saying I'm still speculating. I'm not saying that without a doubt this $2.5 million robbery absolutely did not happen and no products were stolen. In fact, I can't really prove that no robbery happened at all. But Jeffree Star can prove that it did happen, and for some reason he hasn't. And then after that, the story just got dropped completely. There was just no follow-up to a $2.5 million robbery in the news. The only stories you can find about this are the ones reporting that Jeffree said it happened. Basically, he said it was true, nobody questioned it, he generated a ton of buzz for the announcement of his new concealer product, and then everyone just promptly forgot about it. Now, if I see anything in the future that is evidence that this giant multi-million-dollar robbery did in fact occur, then of course, that's what I'll believe. But as of now, seeing as believing this story means believing Jeffree Star of all people at face value with no evidence, when the story itself already doesn't make any sense, yeah, I choose not to.
Okay, hey, I'm editing, and this is just a quick note. While I was editing, this is how easy it is to get people to write about you, even when you don't have proof. There is now an MTV Australia article about me claiming that Jeffree Star's robbery was fake on MTV Australia. They're basically going down some of the tweets I had outlined with some of the stuff I put in this video. Yeah, guys, it's literally that easy to get people to write about what you're saying. Oh my gosh.
Hi sisters, how are ya? All right, so today we have James Charles here and he is going to transform me like you guys have never seen before.
Now, one thing that had been brewing in these past couple of years was a wholesome friendship between Jeffree Star and James Charles, aka not just his new friend, but also his biggest competitor on YouTube. James Charles managed to rise to the same level of fame and then a bit higher than Jeffree Star in a much shorter time period. And seeing as he didn't have a past history of all that stuff that Jeffree was doing, it turned out that he was much more widely loved. So despite the love that Jeffree showed, it was kind of inevitable that their friendship was going to end with a bang.
Very
These are
scary.
dark thoughts.
Yeah, these are
like,
really
bringing back traumatic experiences.
Yes,
honestly.
I know. We're having a little bit of PTSD right now. And I'm shook.
Jeffree called James a predator. He's a danger to society.
There is a
the
reason
internet went
that
crazy
Nathan
after Tati
banned
posted
James Charles
this
from ever coming over to our
Blown
home
away
again.
by
There's a
how
reason
everybody
why-
just dropped James on a dime like,
I'm sorry.
So, the YouTuber Tati Westbrook made a video in which she exaggerated, misrepresented information, and at times flat out lied in order to accuse James Charles of predatory behavior. Like I said, I have a video about Tati coming soon, but for now, all you need to know for context is that I have mixed feelings on Tati Westbrook for a number of reasons, none of which we will be discussing in this video. Jeffree, on the other hand, used this bombshell video to insert himself into this drama, not for no reason, but with a very specific aim to take down James Charles once and for all. He called James not just a predator, but a danger to society and claims that he banned him from his home. He did this all publicly, and according to James Charles, he privately said even worse things about James. Now, Jeffree told the world that he was going to come forward with receipts that prove that everything Tati said in her video was correct. Then instead of coming forward with receipts, he came forward with this video.
I do regret sending those tweets. Before fully accusing an individual of doing anything, I need more facts. So moving forward, I want to let you guys know something. I'm done. I am done with the tea, with the drama, and I don't want to be involved in anyone's situations anymore.
Sound familiar? 2017 vibes. Jeffree Star never changes because he never tries to change. Like, the reason he never learns is because he already knows. He already knows exactly what kind of person he is and that the things he's saying aren't true. This man never shares proof of anything, and yet somehow he has us constantly discussing his drama as if it even exists. I have to be honest, that's a bit of a power move.
The sold out Shane Dawson x Jeffree Star Cosmetics collection, the coveted conspiracy palette.
Now, I'm actually not going to go into too much detail about this one because I already made an entire video about it. Long story short, Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star lied and manipulated their audience using the bi-sister drama in order to sell out their new makeup collection. It was pretty elaborate stuff, but just watch that video if you want the details. But I will add this, something I didn't cover in that video. Notice how now that Shane has done the dirty work of making Jeffree Star seem like a good person via the PR series, he now releases a physical product with him in a collaboration. If he had done that before making that first docu-series on Jeffree, then he would have gotten the same treatment that Kim K did, which is getting shunned for working with a racist. You know, like an understandable reaction. But because he did it after the world believed Jeffree was such a good person, the two of them got universal love and the palette sold out within like minutes. See, these people might be dumb, but they're not dumb. And I, for one, just want to know how much money is in the contract that they made each other sign. And now we're to the 2020 part of this timeline. As you can see, Jeffree started off in a bad position in 2017, but he used the power of persuasion and an airtight PR strategy to become not just the internet's darling, but legitimately one of the richest people on YouTube. And he managed to do it all without doing the one thing that he can't, which is change his behavior. But 2020 is where this story takes a nosedive. Even though I have focused this video on Jeffree's recent actions, like I said I would, some things from his past were about to come back in a big way this year. There's a lesson in here somewhere about how him and his fans trying to force other people to ignore his past wound up not working out, since his past was not just something that happened a long time ago, but rather something that shaped and explained his behavior today. But I digress. All right, now this one right here is just weird, okay? I don't know how else to explain it. Remember how Jeffree publicly claimed that James Charles was a predator and banned from his home? Well, here he is publicly congratulating James months after making those claims. James killed it as per usual, he said, referring to a makeup job, and acting as if nothing had happened between them. Honestly, what sense does that make? Now, this on its own is a little weird, but it's much worse when you start to realize this isn't even the first time that Jeffree Star flopped back and forth between calling James Charles a menace and publicly showing support for him. In fact, he even told James that he misses him on Twitter, supposedly after the time when he got banned from his house. I'm gonna insert this picture right here. It's just a full timeline created by the YouTuber Sebastian Williams of every single time Jeffree Star flops back and forth when it comes to James Charles. Pause it and read and you'll see just how unhinged he's becoming at this point. You can literally see his lies catching up with him. Alright, so thankfully this point on the timeline is pretty lighthearted. I included it because while it fits the theme, it's mostly just funny to me, and it's a much needed break before we get to what is ultimately the darkest part of this video. So basically, Jeffree Star had uploaded a video last year called Surprising My Boyfriend with His Dream Car. In the description, he says that his boyfriend's dream car was an Aston Martin. You know, typical YouTuber stuff. Typical YouTubers who can, like, afford an Aston Martin. So that in and of itself, not really worth noting. However, Jeffree and his boyfriend went through a public breakup in March of 2020, and that's when fans noticed that Jeff still had the car, almost as if he never actually gave it to his boyfriend in the first place. So when people asked him about that, he went back and changed the title to Pretending to Surprise My Boyfriend with His Dream Car, and then goes on to explain in this new description that an Aston Martin was actually his dream car. So all this to say, Jeffree got 12 million views on what is ultimately just a 15-minute video of him and his boyfriend being horrible actors.
Calling Nate right now.
Jeffree's calling me. Hey, babe.
Surprise!
Damn.
Yes.
This is so nice.
If it's not clear by now, literally nothing this man says is true. Nothing this man does is real. Like, with most people say things and I believe them, and then later I might find out, oh wow, that's not true. With Jeffree, he says things and I just immediately assume it's not true until I find out otherwise. All he does is lie and get caught by his lies. And, you know, while this one is just something as silly and inconsequential as a car, a much bigger, darker lie was about to resurface and face Jeffree head on.
We've got an exclusive interview with Jeffree Star on Sunday as we continue our investigation into the Davi vanity case.
In April of this year, Jeffree appeared on a live stream with former TV host and the man behind To Catch a Predator, Chris Hansen. Now, Jeffree wasn't there because he was a predator. He was there to discuss his involvement with the musician Davi Vanity. The two were very close because they came up together in that same MySpace area of music, but then things started to get really dark. See, here's Jeffree around 10 years ago calling Davi out for messing with kids. As you can see, he specifically said he saw Davi taking girls into his hotel room. 100% illegal. For context, Davi Vanity is in fact guilty of messing with kids, according to the Pinellas County Sheriff Office. He just got away with it because he claimed he didn't know the victim's age and they had trouble moving forward. But then a bunch of other people came forward and said similar things had happened to them, so yikes. So all in all, it's really good that Jeffree Star called this out and was so vocal about somebody who he had a connection with on his platform. The issue is, about 1 year later, he took this all back and then congratulated Davi. Are you starting to see a pattern here? Here's Jeffree claiming that he's on good terms with Davi, congratulating him, and then announcing a tour with the man that he saw take girls into his hotel room, 100% illegal. By publicly going back on this information, Jeffree made it extremely difficult for the victims to come forward and be taken seriously, because what was a high-profile witness was now claiming he and Davi were just buddy-buddy. So basically, Jeffree Star either decided to work with an alleged criminal for profit, or he had lied about seeing that alleged criminal in action. And considering Davi Vanity's actual criminal history, I feel like the answer is kind of obvious. So, fast forward 10 years later to Jeffree being asked about this by Chris Hansen. All you need to know for context is that I have mixed feelings about Chris Hansen for a number of reasons, none of which we'll be discussing in this video. But basically, instead of questioning him outright, Chris Hansen just let Jeffree make a bunch of excuses and didn't even nail him down for contradicting himself.
I don't have anything to report. If I actually saw and witnessed something, he would be rotting in jail this very moment. But I never saw anything besides inappropriate behavior. I never witnessed anything that could be used as evidence. And I think somehow people think I do and I'm not saying it.
You send out these tweets, and yet in 2012, I believe, correct? You go back out on tour and essentially make public statements that
and a lot of people want
a good guy, and you're supporting him at this point. Well, how do you square that with
me calling Davi my brother? That's just me being dramatic.
At this point, Jeffree's lies don't even make sense as they come out of his mouth. But at the exact same time as those lies were blowing up in his face, a much more recent one was about to come back in a big way.
We have the guest, Jeffree Star, on the show.
The queen of YouTube.
Oh, hi.
In the same month, Jeffree Star went on the popular podcast Mom's Basement, hosted by the YouTubers Keemstar, FaZe Banks, and Colossal is Crazy. On that podcast, they asked Jeff a few tough questions, including whether or not James Charles was really a danger to society. Now remember that at this point in time, Jeffree had already flip-flopped on his opinion on James Charles multiple times. But instead of answering their yes or no question, Jeffree Star did something much more extreme and much more serious. He claimed that he had a voice note on his phone that he interpreted as evidence that James Charles was a predator.
One thing, real quick. Is James Charles a danger to society? Is he a predator?
Keem. If you want, we can pause and I can go in another room and play Banks what I have on my phone, and he can determine if he would have sent the same tweet.
This was now getting real, okay? We went from Jeffree Star making vague claims and refusing to support them to Jeffree Star very deliberately claiming that he has evidence of bad behavior. A first-hand witness testimony that one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform is hurting people. Now, of course, as far as I'm concerned, this evidence isn't evidence of anything because it's coming from Jeffree Star. And on top of that, nobody has come forward and said, oh yes, this is me, I made that voice memo. But just to so proudly flaunt that you have blackmail material against James Charles on your phone to such a public platform is absolutely insane. But if that wasn't bad enough, Jeffree Star then proceeded to lie about the Davi Vanity situation again while he was on the Mom's Basement podcast.
I mean, that's such a misleading tweet, isn't it? That's so misleading.
Which part?
No? We saw Davi bring underage girls to his hotel rooms and do things 100% illegal. Of course, people are going to interpret that as you seeing that with your own eyes.
Oh, of course. So 10 years later, I'm telling people, did I see a crime or anything actual illegal? No. Other people did and told me that at the time. And then it was not proven, but it was convinced by him being a master manipulator and people that I trusted in our circle that said, no, actually, we've never seen anything. I had someone that had 4 children themselves, a grown mother, as his band member say, Jeffree, I've been in his world for years and I've lived on the tour bus and I've never seen anything.
As you can see, at this point, there are a lot of people, much like those podcast hosts, who know that Jeffree Star's stories simply do not add up. But even when they confront him directly, he just still lies, almost making it pointless to confront him in the first place. Alright, so this next point is actually the one that I wound up getting blocked over. Not only does it show how aware Jeffree Star is of his behavior, but it also kind of just shows he hasn't even stopped clapping back at people online in the worst way possible like he claimed that he would. Long story short, questionable fashion brand CEO Shadi Lin posted a picture to her Instagram, which many interpreted to be in support of the police who were out against the protesters. She was obviously catching a lot of flack for this online, but Jeffree used this situation as an excuse to slide into her DMs and literally just harass her. According to screenshots that she shared, he sent and unsent multiple messages in which he called her the C word, said that her store should burn down, and even going so far as to hope that she got shot in the face with a rubber bullet. No matter what reason you might have, there is just never a reason to talk to somebody this way. So that was that. But then I personally saw Jeffree Star tweet out this quote saying, shaming someone into action creates acting, inspiring someone into action creates change. And this was just days after he was not just shaming, but harassing and threatening Shadi Lin into action. So that set me off, and I did reply to that tweet and pointed out what he had done and his hypocrisy in the situation. And I said that the only thing that Jeffree Star inspires me to do is pass away. And then I woke up next morning to find that I, Dangelowallace, had finally been blocked on Twitter by Jeffree Star. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't proud of myself.
Shout out to Grandma Mary Star. How you doing, girl?
So, in the midst of all this current drama that Jeffree has going on, he decided to let us know how unbothered he was by hopping on a plane to fly his grandma out to Montana for her 103rd birthday. According to that Instagram post, she's turning 103, which is of course fantastic. However, there's a few weird things about this because last year, Jeffree repeatedly claimed that his grandma was in fact 100. So how is she turning 103?
My grandma said, Jeffree, I don't want to be on camera. I'm 100. My 100-year-old grandma. My grandma is 100 years old. Like, she is 100.
Now, I'm gonna be honest. I personally kind of just dismiss that one because a lot of people do round their age down, especially with numbers as high as like 100. But what does make it weird is that in the description of that video, he specifically says that she turned 100 last year, but now this year she is turning 103. So that's a little weird when you start looking at that together with the fact that he has gone on record and said her birthday was in June, but then another time said that her birthday was in July. It definitely starts to raise some eyebrows. With all that aside, even if Jeffree's 100% on the up and up about his grandma, and he just somehow manages to get the dates and her age wrong every single year, this is literally still a fake post because he was not on a plane flying out to Montana with his grandma. This image right here, he uploaded 6 months beforehand. Here it is on Twitter in January, and now he's using it to prove that he's flying somewhere in June. The final piece of this puzzle was that people saw Jeffree Star taking photos with fans in California with no masks, by the way, and not social distancing during a pandemic. So honestly, I could just tell that he was that kind of person. But anyway, let's move on.
You can't silence me. I know you paid to silence people. You can't silence me, and I'm just not going to be that person.
And now this journey that we started in 2017 brings us to our final stop, which is actually like last week, June 2020. So in June, well-known YouTuber Blair White came forward with a bombshell video about Jeffree Star, claiming not just that he reached out to her, but that he actually played her the alleged voice note from this alleged victim of James Charles. Presumably the same voice note that Jeffree mentioned and offered to play on the Mama's Basement podcast. Rightfully withholding the source, Blair called this note credible.
He then provided me with receipts of a voice memo from a YouTuber who was allegedly sexually molested by James Charles, and it's credible. It's a YouTuber, it's credible. It is not my place to out this YouTuber's name at all. I reached out to this person privately, the alleged victim, and offered my support.
Now, this was a really strange move to make on Blair's part because, first of all, that's an extremely bold claim to make without evidence. But what makes it make even less sense is that she spends the entire first part of the video explaining how Jeffree Star lied to her about his involvement in the Davy Vanity case, and then went on to contradict himself in multiple different places. But then she just decides to publicly assert that the voice note is credible. In addition to that, she even admits in this video that she knows Jeffree Star pays people to say things. So I don't understand why she would present this as if this is some sort of credible thing.
A lot of people have Jeffree in their ear constantly in their DMs, trying to manipulate them or get them to run with certain stories. He's paying off people for silence. He's paying people to say certain things.
What further confused me was that she goes on to reveal that Jeffree shared with her the identity of an alleged criminal on YouTube, who is currently just still on YouTube. But for some reason, she named James Charles, but she didn't name this person, even though they're both alleged, and she doesn't even have evidence for either one of them.
Jeffree then revealed to me someone else, a very famous YouTuber, who, yeah, I'll use the word raped someone. Did he provide me with receipts of that one? No. Do I personally think it's credible? Yes. And part of the reason why I'm doing this video is to come to you guys and ask, if you guys know this information, what would you do with it?
Personally, I'd much rather know the name of an alleged criminal on YouTube, and not just that Jeffree Star thinks James Charles is a danger to society and he has some magical evidence that he refuses to share publicly. Because I already knew that. Everyone already knows that. That's the story with Jeffree Star and James Charles. Like, this whole basis of Blair's video that Jeffree Star keeps private receipts and he shares them to other influencers, it wasn't even news. I'm not sure why the video was marketed as some sort of grand expose. In fact, it started to get weird when I really thought about the fact that the only new information in Blair's entire video is the fact that she thinks that Jeffree Star's voice note is credible. So basically, even though she trashed him by saying things that people already knew and believed about him, all she really did was help him out by confirming that she believes this is a real thing. A lot of people in the comment section pointed out that Blair played right into Jeffree's hands, and honestly, whether or not this was intentional, I can't really say. I mean, Blair has been on record before misrepresenting facts to cover for Jeffree in the Davy Vanity situation. There's a video about that you can watch. I'll put it on screen. It's actually very detailed. So as far as I'm concerned, she's not credible either. In this situation, there is no victim. It's literally an alleged fact that this person exists or not because they haven't come forward. Now, I want to make it crystal clear. If/when somebody comes forward and claims that they've had this sort of experience with James Charles, I will believe them and I will listen to what they have to say. But for now, seeing as the only person who holds this evidence is literally Jeffree Star, and we just spent this entire video kind of showing that Jeffree Star doesn't tell the truth about anything and will do anything to achieve any goal, which this goal definitely seems to be getting James Charles out of the picture. I'm gonna have to be honest, I don't believe there's a victim at this moment in time. And that is the last thing I have in this video because, again, it happened last week. He hasn't really said anything since then, so there's nothing much to cover. So this has been a critical look of Jeffree Star in recent times. As you can see from my video, there's plenty of stuff to discuss regarding his recent actions, some of which are humorous, some of which are far more serious than the 2010 stuff, and all of which paint a picture of a person who has faked everything about, well, everything. I do want to personally thank you if you've made it all the way to the end of this extremely long video, but honestly, if you're like a Jeffree Star fan, I know I was taking a lot of digs at him, but I really hope this video kind of explained why I and a lot of people are not Jeffree Star fans. But at the same time, I'm not sure why I'm pretending like any real hardcore Jeffree Star fan would have made it this far into the video. We all know that didn't happen, so ultimately, who cares?